I'm Dr. Laura Schlesinger, welcoming you to this hour of the program right here on Sirius XM Stars 109. You are here with the Wonder Duo, Dan and Deborah, screening your calls, the amazing Carson Smith, engineering, orchestrating our music, producing the segues, and my number again is 1-800-Dr. Laura, translated into 1-800-375-2872. I've been on radio over 4 decades. I can remember certain calls forever because they made such an impact on me. I have never remembered a whole hour until last Tuesday. Spontaneously, I hope you were listening. If not, get the podcast. At the end of the second hour, truth, frankness, here it comes. I had one too many, not too great wife call to bitch about her husband. I spent one too many times that hour explaining how you get the most out of a man. And you know, something just snapped in my head and I couldn't hear it one more time. So I said, I'd like you men who want to come home to your wives to call and tell me why. So all these women can understand what they need to do and how simple it ultimately is to become the kind of wife your man wants to come home to. And it was an hour I will never forget. It was overflow time. Couldn't get to all the calls. They went into voicemail, several hundred, of guys wanting to, as two men said, brag on my wife. Want to brag on my wife. And I know that the call that I will never forget from the hour I will never forget came from a man. Carson played it. He said something like, she envelops his soul with love. She's an emotional hug to his soul, an emotional hug to his soul. I scrawled it down almost immediately. And then I said, wow, you're very poetic. Well, I'm a truck driver, never thought of myself much as being poetic. And I said, well, contrary to what you say is type, that was very poetic. And I'm crying. Because imagine being called, imagine as a wife and a woman being told you are an emotional hug to your husband's soul. I fear that there are just too many bitchy women out there who have no clue on how to love a man. Because men are very uncomplicated. They are the least complicated creatures on the face of the earth. And there are a couple of things that I want to say still about what happened. The first is, I'm looking at my emails over the weekend. And I was sort of thinking, since it was last Tuesday that it happened, gee, I wonder of the women listening if any one of them was hoping their husband would call. And thinking, he probably wouldn't. And then I come across this from Gracie. She says, Dr. Laura, I overheard my husband describe me as an emotional hug for his soul. Of all the calls, that was the one that stood out for me. And the rest were just so beautiful. I mean, you can't really compare, but there was something about the poetry in that. And his wife is listening. Can you imagine what it was like for her at that moment to go, oh shit, that's my husband. And then he says, an emotional hug for the soul. Let me read it. What he didn't tell you is what he didn't tell you, he is more than what he sees me even. When we met, he unlocked the wanted need and the desire for me to be a woman that I am. I want to be that woman for him because he is a man who deserves nothing less. We promised when we married to never try to change anything about the other. Instead, We chose to adapt to our differences and blend them in with our own. If we start to argue, it won't be long until our fail-proof way of ending it laughing. One of us will lean over and lick the other's cheek. The argument has nothing left. We laugh and we go on. We are love. We are one. We got this. So, statistically speaking, and I hated statistics. Terrible course. Anyway, I'm not a business person. I don't need any of that. I just have to say, most of the time, that's good enough. But considering that I said in over 40 years of being on the air that this was the hour I still remember vividly every call, and the one that stuck out was from the poetic truck driver, and his wife was listening and wrote me. I mean, what are the statistics coming down into that one event happening? I was just blown out when I read this. So for you folks that didn't hear it, it was one of the most incredible experiences of my life, on or off air, to hear man after man talking what was so wonderful about his wife. And let me tell you, let me summarize what they said. She's warm. She's sweet. She's affectionate. She makes me feel like a man, like she cares, like I'm important. One guy was driving into his driveway when we were finishing the call, and he is sobbing. I don't know what he looked like at the front door when he walked in. But this was the one you heard also, Carson. You see, Carson and I, our brains must be on some link. Because he was crying as he was coming into his driveway home. He's the one where his wife greets him every time he walks through that door with a hug and a passionate kiss. Passionate kiss. And he's sobbing. Does any of this seem very complicated? She keeps her nice clothes on because when he comes in, he's dressed, so she wants to be dressed for him because she's not dressing for anybody else. A preponderance of them really appreciated the hot dinner waiting because it was a sign of caring. He just got off the freeway. It's been a bitch of a day, and he walks in. He's got hugs and smiles and a warm dinner. Now, I'm going to tell you what no man said. Not one. Not one man on the tapes or on the air said anything about sex. I doubt it's because sex doesn't matter. But what I do think is that sex becomes disproportionately important when there's nothing else. So I'm sure the guys who were getting some enjoyed getting some. But mostly, they just wanted to be treated with affection and attention and appreciation. And then they wanted to come home to their women. So I know a lot of you women get your knickers all wrapped up around your ears when I say there are only two reasons a man has an affair. One, he's just a complete piece of garbage. Two, you've starved him. There's no bread in the cupboard. He steals bread from a store. Only two reasons. First one is a character issue. Sorry, can't do anything about that. You picked a jerk. Second one, there's something you can do about that. But isn't it interesting? Not one of them said, she's hot in bed. She gives it to me whenever I want it. Not one of them mentioned sex. They all talked about affection, appreciation, admiration, respect, warmth. It was profoundly moving, inspirational, So I hope the women who are listening and who aren't feminist blasted in their brain like sandblasting. So I got another email. This is fascinating. This is from a woman. She said, I just had the most enlightening moment and had to stop and write. I was sitting on my porch when I heard my male neighbor and his buddy talking about their marriage to their wives. This is what I heard, quote, you know, they say happy wife, happy life, but I think the same is true for husbands too. I took my kids on a 4-H trip with my wife. I was running around helping with their activities all day, taking care of our campsite and working. In the evening, I was hoping me and her would open a beer, relax, and maybe I'd get lucky. Well, it never happened. I came home. I kept a good attitude, did what I needed to do to unpack, and she mostly paid attention to the kids. I was hoping for some attention. So the next time there was a trip, I told her, I don't think it's worth it for me to take a week off. I don't think it's fair that I was an equal partner and all I wanted was a little attention and affection, and she only pays attention to the kids. End quote. I stayed on my porch a little longer than necessary to eavesdrop because I was hearing it straight from the horses' mouths. They didn't know I was listening. But that conversation and your book, The Proper Care and Feeding of Husbands, is going to be the reason that I put on makeup and greet my husband at the door with a smile and a loving embrace today. I am my husband's girlfriend because of you, Dr. Laura. 1 year ago, he cheated on me. He told me all of the things I wasn't doing to show him love, and that I looked at him with disdain. I played the victim. I scoffed at his needs. It wasn't until a friend recommended your program to me that I finally looked in the mirror. Today, we have a happy marriage, and I will work on that every day to make sure that he never has to have a conversation that I overheard on that porch. Thank you, Margot. To remind you, if you need some help in this department, ladies, I have a course. And number 4 in a 6-part series of this course, 6 classes, is on marriage101.com. And you can watch it from the beginning 100,000 times. You cannot download it. It stays in a cloud somewhere. Hopefully a nice, sparkly, white, puffy cloud. I have no idea what these clouds are, but you can watch it 1,000 times. Because I don't want your husbands to have that conversation on a porch. And I want your husband to call me, should I ever do that again. Have men call and say why they want to come home to their women. The duration of marriages went from 7 years to 53. And to hear a man married to a woman 53 years, beyond enthusiastic to come home to her, is sobering. And all he had to say was some gentle flowing things. They hold hands. She looks into his eyes. She says nice things. He has dinner ready. She cuddles when they watch a movie. You'd think it was some heavy-duty stuff. But even these small things, women in this era are not brought up to look at their husbands with that kind of respect and attention and responsibility and obligation and desire to make them happy. Feminism says nothing good about trying to make your man happy. It's all about maximizing your own power. The hell is that about? I am an incredibly strong woman. I won't walk through a door unless a man opens it, and then I will turn and I will say, thank you very much. You're a gentleman. And when I do that, you got to see the look on guys' faces. First of all, they're expecting, I can open the door myself. As a matter of fact, I'm a black belt. I can kick it in. Instead, they get this appreciation. I think that guy, I didn't even know him. He would have found a red carpet and put it down the rest of the way I was walking. Men are very easy to make happy. Not so much us. Anyway, that's that. If you missed it, we have it on a podcast. Let's see, Dan wrote, how do I tell them? Let's see. A family premium podcast for family premium service. Just look on drlaura.com and figure it out. They didn't hire me because I knew anything about computers. My number, thank God, because we'd all be selling pencils. 1-800-375-2872.